Welcome back to Peaking. Today we are diving into the future of recruiting and how AI is fundamentally reshaping the interview process. I'm joined by Mehul Bhatt, founder of FloCareer, a platform that he calls the Uber of interviewing. FloCareer connects skilled interviewers with companies at scale, helping them run faster, better, and more structured interviews without losing the human touch. In this episode, we talk about how AI interviewing is improving efficiency without replacing people, the rise of interviewing as a service, why structured feedback and training are critical for quality hiring, and what the future holds for freelance interviewers, staffing firms, and hiring leaders adapting to this new world. If you're in talent tech or just obsessed with the future of work, this one will be interesting. Let's get into it. Mehul, welcome to Peaking. How you doing today?
Doing great. How are you, Wyatt? All well?
I'm doing well. It's a beautiful day in Colorado and very much looking forward to this conversation. I don't always get to speak with people that are kind of in my industry. You're building an interviewing tool. I'm a recruiter, so very interesting to kind of think about what the future looks like, especially with all the conversation about AI and to be honest, I don't know how much long recruiting is going to be a career. And so I'm seeing all these tools come out. There's a sourcing tool. You're building an interviewing tool. What's next? A negotiating tool. So very much looking forward to hearing more about what you're building. Just to start out, make the case for AI interviewing.
Sure. You asked about how long will recruiting exist. So I think my view on that is like as long as dating would exist, recruiting would exist. Because both are effectively matchmaking. It's always you will always need people to find the best match and AI and everything else is just a tool to make it more efficient, make it more interesting. So I'm pretty confident. It's similar to this will revolutionize the education industry, and that keeps happening. And we still have schools, physical schools where there's a teacher which takes care of all the kids and whatnot. So I'm pretty sure about those things. But sure, yeah. I mean, I'll tell you a little bit about FloCareer and how we are using AI interviewers now as part of our solutions that we provide to our customers, right? So think of us as the Uber of interviewing to start with. So we have video interviewing platform and we have more than 8,000 interviewers. So that's our forte. That's our flagship. So that's what we have been doing so far. And while we are strong at that, we just introduced AI interviewers in the mix. Essentially, the first round of interview, whether it's a screening interview or a detailed coding interview, it's the interviewer is AI now instead of a person. So that helps when there is a lot of scale in hiring and people want anytime, anywhere kind of a situation, no scheduling overhead, all those goodies. So yeah, it has been a very fascinating few months. The pace at which things are changing is really, really crazy.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Each new model becomes more human-like. And as I talk to it, I talk to Grok, I talk to ChatGPT mostly. I know a lot of people like Claude for coding and writing. They just get so much better, and I can converse with it like an expert in any topic. And I'm using it as a coach for my fitness pursuits, and I use it as a head chef in my kitchen, and I'll give it my ingredients. It's just like it's very, very impressive each time a new model comes out to see the dramatic improvement. And I imagine that's pretty essential when it comes to using it for interviewing. There's not a lot of room for error in an interview for an AI to make mistakes and people just log off. But to jump back, you said, you have 8,000 interviewers. So most of your service is interviewing as a service. You are helping companies vet out people in specific technical areas that company may not be experts in. Is that right?
Either that or when, it is a lot of volume they want to hire and they want first round to be, outsourced to these, freelancers. So, that contrary to the perceptions, right? When you think about outsourcing your interviews to a freelancer, people might think that, oh my God, I might lose control and whatnot, right? But as a matter of fact, we structure our interviews so well, right? So people love that fact that, we have a very structured interview, a very, kind of a, top to bottom, very well calibrated, attempt at interviewing, which most companies unfortunately don't have it. I used to work at Cisco and I myself have seen the situations where people will be running around holding the resume and saying, hey, who is free to take this interview? The candidate is sitting in the so and so conference room. That's unfortunately is how things are at times. There are very few FANG companies who structure their interview. They're very proud of their interviews. But otherwise, in most cases, somebody is very lenient, somebody is very strict. There is no structure. So we bring a structure. So, if you have a volume hiring going on and you cannot meet, those numbers by yourself, you tap into these, freelancers.
How did you get into this? How did you see a gap in interviewing services?
Yeah, definitely. So my quick journey, I was in Bay Area for almost 11 years, part of two successful, startups. My second startup was acquired by Cisco, and at that time, me and my family, we thought, let's give a shot to India. Let's move back, see how it goes. Before that, I never worked in India. So it would be, that was a big change for us, but we thought, let's give it a try. If things don't work out, we can always come back. So I moved to India. I started working on the Asia Pacific region. And that's where I saw a big gap of, skills and demand. So I wanted to do something in the area of skill development. So I left the corporate world, and my first venture was FloLearning, where, we wanted to find the right talent to coach, talents. So using the mentors to teach kids or coming out of college to, be ready for the industry. That was the idea. It was B2C. I was not well equipped with that. Things didn't work out so well. So that's when, around 2018-19 timeframe is when, we went back to the, drawing board saying, okay, which component we can reuse and find a solution which is more of a B2B, where there is a real problem that exists. And that's when we came up with the idea of, interview as a service, because again, you can tap into the resources of the freelancers who can help companies to find the right talent. And it worked really great. The COVID was really, it put a lot of wind under our wings, and we did pretty good, during the COVID and post-COVID. Got funded, started our Boston operations, and, I moved back to Boston and whatnot. So yeah, that's a quick overview of my journey here.
Did you start this company in India, or you started it in the United States?
So I started in India while I was living in India, but we always registered it in it's always been a Delaware corporation. And then, as soon as we got funded, I moved back to Boston to take care of the business in the US.
And what was your experience like working in India for the first time?
Very different. If you look at, the culture of the two countries, right? US and India, right? Both are democracies and all those goodies. But one stark difference is that, the mentality of scarcity that suffers, for the developing countries, right? So every problem that you find in India, you can probably, boil it down to that. Why there is so much of a traffic congestion, because people think that if I don't grab the next 2 inches, then I will not be able to get past this junction, right? So they will put the front wheel of their two-wheelers, now they are blocking somebody else, right? So that is something that I saw where people have this mentality of scarcity in the developing nations. And in the US, one of the biggest plus point we have is the thinking big. So that's really the difference I can see at a very high level, at least what affects me or things around me. Otherwise, for India, I tell people that, everything that you have heard about India is true, and it's exactly opposite is also true.
Americans' experience with Indians is only the Indians that immigrate, of course. We're not interacting with Indians in India. Did you see a stark difference there with the Indians who make the journey to America and people who stay?
Yes and no. I think there are a lot of microcultures again, so...
Yeah.
Especially when I came back to Boston, right? That's where, these cultural differences and, I was more observant. Maybe it was age, or maybe, it was the exposure or whatever it was. But, the first time immigrants usually try to remain in their bubbles, right? But then when I went back to India and came back to the US, that's when I was really opening up my mind and trying a lot of their experience. So the generation that is being built in last 10, 15, 20 years, right? A lot of wealth has been created in India. When you compare with the people who has been settled in the US, who migrated, let's say in 80s or 90s or early 2000s, right? Those people, I find them much more conservative when it comes to the culture or, economics and whatnot, right? And that has been expressed by many other who are in a similar boat, because nowadays a lot of people have come to India, moved back to the US and whatnot. So that's the observation. There's a lot of newfound wealth in India, and people have, when people leave India, like a decade or 2 decades back, that's their perception that, well, this is the size of the dollar or this is the size of the rupee, right? So it's very interesting microcultures that you will find all over the place.
Yeah, it's definitely very interesting. I'm very interested by demographics. From American perception, for the most part, Indians are Indians, but when you talk to people from India, there's North and South, and they're very different. And same thing with China, North and South, very different. Rural and urban, very different. Somewhat like America, East Coast and West Coast are somewhat different. But honestly, I don't think it's as stark of a difference based on the conversations I've had. And it is very interesting to talk about. That's not the topic of conversation for the whole podcast, but thank you for indulging my interests and speaking to those a little bit. I've been in the tech industry for 10 years, so I've been working with people, in the H1 program for quite a while, obviously the full 10 years. And a lot of them are from India and China. And so hearing a lot of stories, my eating habits have changed somewhat. I'm a huge fan of Eastern food, and I never had any before I started working in the tech industry.
True. Yeah, no, yeah, absolutely. That's absolutely true. Yeah. A lot of, in the Bay Area, a lot of neighborhoods are pretty much all Asian, if you look around. That's true.
Yeah. Awesome. So, FloCareer, who is your main customer, or who are your main customers? Are these huge companies that have just large hiring programs, or are these typically companies that get funding that need just a lot of interviews to go off? Who is your, ICP, so to speak?
Sure. Yeah. So typically, there are three types of customers we encounter a lot. Our enterprise customers are usually the services industry giants. So they are the large companies who are taking contracts from, other non-tech companies, a lot of fintech, or not fintech, but I would say, financial
Insurance.
domain companies. Yeah, insurance, finance, banking industry. So they do a lot of work. They outsource a lot of software development to, these services industry, and they hire in bulk. So, we help them a lot, both in US and in India. The second group is the staffing companies. So, when the staffing companies want to give the profiles to their customer, they want to make sure that they are good profiles and they get interviewed by us and then submit it to their clients. And the third are funded startups who want to rapidly grow. So those are mostly, more like, for a quarter they would hire a lot, but then they will stop for a couple of quarters. The next round, again, they hire a lot. So that kind of behavior they demonstrate. Recently with AI, we have seen, some of our large customers, I'm not sure I'm at liberty to take their names, but they are the one who provide workforce across the globe. And they do a lot of, kind of a prompt engineering or kind of fine tuning the models and that kind of work. That has a surge like anything. They are hiring like crazy. To give you an example, we have models for, let's say, math problems. But how do you fine tune them to be even better at, let's say, differentiation and integration and whatnot? So for that, you will need people who will kind of create these scenarios that somebody will say, hey, this is the function that I want to integrate. Can you help me with that? So if you ask that question, how should the LLM respond? So they write it manually because they are the subject matter experts. So they will write the scenario. Then there is a potential follow-up question and the response. So 3 to 4 such sequences, and then you feed 10,000 such interactions to the model to be that model an expert at integration, for an example. And then you pick pretty much anything and everything you can think of, right? A chef, or, though I haven't encountered that so far, but,
I think a chef might be a tough demographic to do AI interviews. So they're not friendly people typically to non-kitchen folk.
True. Yep. So that hiring has surged like anything. These companies are hiring mostly people on contract for 6 months, 9 months, 1 year to fine tune their models.
Very interesting. And have you seen equal success across all levels of technical depth?
Sure. Yeah, we have seen pretty much from entry level to 10 up to 15 years of experience also, but those are less. But yes, most probably 80% of our interviews would be from 3 to 8 years, those 5 years. So those are relatively large number of hires, but at the same time, they are not the fresh out of the college. So you throw an assessment and get done with it, right? So you'd need a little bit more in-depth discussion with them before you hire them.
I've always been interested in interviewing. Every company does it different. There really doesn't seem to be a true science to predict, if an interview goes a certain way, that the person will be a great employee. People, will game the system. You got Cluely, the startup that literally is based on cheating interviews, and I think they've, pivoted to sales calls and just making things more streamlined and talking the right way. But running an interview company, I imagine you have quite a bit of insights into what makes a good interview for the most part. There's always going to be outliers. What are the pillars of strong interview questions or tactics or understanding of what candidates or how they respond?
Sure, yeah. I think pretty much every customer has their own kind of unique ways to handle interviews, and that's why we customize a lot in terms of you can define and design your own interview processes. However, the basic pillars are essentially, and especially in the presence of AI, I would say being human during those interviews, right? I mean, the communication, connecting with the person, making them comfortable. It's not that, you want to test them, you want to make them comfortable and bring the best out of them to see, how they would fit into your working environment. So, that connection, communication, and the follow-up questions, those are essential. And you kind of keep increasing your difficulty level to find that sweet spot of what is the best, that they will do, up to which level they will do the best, right? Interestingly, the flow part of the FloCareer is about that only, matching your skills and difficulty level. So you keep increasing your skill, and you keep increasing your difficulty level, so your skills will improve. So that zone, right, the flow zone where you really love what you do, right? So we want to find that flow zone for a given candidate, right? That's the essential part of interviewing. Communication, interaction, keep increasing the difficulty level and getting into really the depth of the problems that they have solved.
So what does your onboarding process look like, or screening process for the interviewers themselves?
Yeah, that's very important. We have a separate team, we call them, center of excellence for our interviewers. So they are the one who is responsible to find, onboard, train, and keep an eye on these freelance interviewers. So we are not a marketplace where, people will say, hey, I will conduct interviews for X amount of dollars, and somebody else will say Y amount of dollar. We take, responsibility of the quality of interviews, right? Hence, we keep an eye on that. So we first and foremost, we interview the interviewers. That's the fundamental essential step. So we interview our interviewers, and once they are onboarded, we also ask them, what are your best or your favorite interview questions, and how would you rate your candidates' responses? So that helps us to bring more and more questions to our question bank also. So, and that also tells us, apart from their technical skills, their articulation and their detail-oriented approach, etc., right? What kind of questions they are giving us, right? So those are two essential part of, initial screening. Then we train them. We train them on the nuances of interview as a service, because if you and I are working in the same company, we have certain tacit understanding, and I can just say that, hey, the candidate is good in Java, and you would know what does it mean when I say good at Java, right? But if you say that to a kind of an interview as a service report, what is good for you might not be good for me, or vice versa, right? So you have to write the report in a much more detailed manner so that somebody can just read it, and based on that they can understand, right? So we train our interviewers to do good. There is always a constant feedback given to the interviewers, and that's something that they really appreciate, because interviewing is one thing. It is like parenting. Nobody gives you feedback on your parenting. Right? Your company would have KPIs and KRAs for everything else, but not for interviewing. So your interviewing skill will never improve, because nobody is sitting there with you to judge you, or kind of to keep an eye on you. But we have the recordings, and we always go back and say, hey, you know what, this is where you can improve. You need to make candidates more comfortable. You also mentioned briefly about cheating during the interviews. That's unfortunately is the reality, and they need to keep an eye on that part also, to catch if the candidates are doing some wrongdoings. So they appreciate that part, apart from payments, that okay, I'm getting some concrete feedback on certain things.
And how do you source the interviewers? Do people come to you, or are you recruiting them?
We always recruit because, we don't want to open the floodgate where anybody can apply, right? So we always go out and search,
And they have to be a previous hiring manager of some sort?
No, they have, depending on the job role for which they are being interviewed, but typically, we are looking for more of a hard skills, so somebody who is interviewing for data science, they better know data science well, those kind of stuff.
And why would someone want to do this? You make the appeal strong enough monetarily, or you a pitch, you're going to become a better interviewer? What's the value prop for them?
The primary driver is, of course, additional income. So we have situations where, some of our interviewers in the US, they earn easily $3,000 to $4,000 a month, right? Which is like twice the rent that they are paying at times, So, that's a substantial amount of money. And those who are the pure freelancers, right, who do the freelancing job only, it becomes a very good, kind of a supporting income for them. So, if they are in between projects, they have certain assured bandwidth that they will always get. And so they increase their availability during those times. And let's say they got a 2-month project, so they will focus more on that, do less number of only 1 or 2 interviews a day. But if they are in between the projects, they can bump it up to 4, 5, 6 interviews up to their, wish. So yeah, that's
those are tough
definitely
days. I've done those days where you interview 5, 6 people in a day. That's not easy. Do you have AI note takers or recorders on every call?
So we record all of our interviews. We have a number of supporting features to make interviewers' life easy. A lot of them AI driven. Now the reports has been generated by AI, and they just need to kind of verify that it's kind of correct and whatnot. Or they can write a few pointers and ask AI to enhance the feedback. A lot of such things are there for more consistency and ease of,
Cool. How many what's the most amount of interviews your company has conducted in a week?
So more we can look at daily volumes. Usually, the higher numbers are coming from India, where we do these virtual drives for our customers. We do, in the range of, around lower 3,000s. So 3,200 interviews in a day is what we have.
My goodness. That is a lot of interviews.
So, yeah.
And so you're trying to find just diamonds in the rough, so to speak, needle in a haystack candidate, or just signals of excellence candidates for a large batch of hiring for a corporation?
Yeah, so there are like pretty much every branch that you can think of, right? Like, you name it, right? Like a large ones, let's say JCPenney, or, two, Levi jeans, or pretty much everybody has some, software developers in India, right? Because to maintain their website and, to develop their other products and whatnot. So they do a lot of hiring because of that. So it's just the volume, the volume is just so high.
It's incredible. So what do you see in the future? If you had to predict, how many human interviews can be replaced by AI interviewers, and why can some not be replaced?
So, again, you can think of the dating analogy here, right? I mean, you will never probably date or marry somebody without actually meeting them, or, you will not depend on an AI to say, okay, find me a match and I will trust you 100%, right? AI will help you to narrow down your search. But at the end of the day, you will definitely talk with them and whatnot, right? So it's the initial screening is where the AI is going to be more and more prevalent, which makes sense because, many times, we have seen candidates applying everywhere and anywhere. So, it's important that when it comes to people, they give more quality time to less number of qualified leads, right? So initial screening would be replaced by AI more and more. And I have been really fascinated by capabilities. When we started developing this product, honestly, I wasn't really expecting such a good result. I'm still a developer today, and I kind of gave some of the initial interviews with AI. In fact, I can send you a link of one of these interviews I have put on YouTube. It's really good at kind of getting into the depth, not just verifying the code and explaining the problem statement, but later on getting into the space complexity and the time complexity of my solution. How would I optimize it? And it will ask in one instance, it asked me 2 questions at the same time, and I spent a lot of time explaining the first part and missed the second question. And it got back to me on that that's all well and good and perfectly fine, but what about this other question that I also asked you? So, that is really the beauty of it. So I was not expecting it to be that good, right? But AI interviews are doing marvelous job.
And the way it work for a technical concept is to try to truly understand the absolute, like the deepest technical depth someone knows of. So if they're a Python developer, they want to know every single aspect of that person's knowledge around what Python is capable of.
It mostly goes more into the depth of the solution. So it would probably cover a single medium difficulty level coding assignment, and we'll spend about 30 minutes into it. So it will go into the depth of the solution. First it will explain the problem statement. It's also written there. But if you ask questions about, can you explain me? Do you want this? Can you elaborate whether you want me to do this or that? It will respond to you with those. Then you start writing code. It will not bother you. It will be patient at that time. It will not keep talking while you are writing the code. But once you are done, you can also run the test cases and see whether they all passed or not. Once everything passes, then it will say, great, sounds like all test cases have passed. Can you walk me through your solution? That will be typically the first question. So you explain your solution approach, etc., and then it will ask you, okay, are there ways to make it optimized? What is the space complexity? Means how much memory your program is using. Can you optimize it? Time complexity means how long the program, how much time does it take to solve the problem. Let's say simple thing, I want to find first 10,000 prime numbers. So how long will it take to do that? And can you optimize it? How will you optimize it? And it goes into a really detailed approach in kind of, whatever you propose, and it will have a follow-up question until it knows that, okay, now it has all the answers. So it's mind-boggling, the way, frankly, I was not expecting that.
Do you see your number of freelance interviewers going down with the application of AI interviewing?
I believe that, more qualified interviewers would be able to demand more money. Probably it will go by numbers, it will go down, but first round AI, which is cheaper, the second round with our, freelance interviewers, we can probably demand more from the clients because now they are working on a qualified leads. They will take longer interviews, more in depth, and so on. So probably the numbers will go down, I believe. But yeah, we will be able to charge more and we'll be able to pay more to our freelancers.
Do you plan to pivot to be more of a product company licensing your technology, or are you going to keep both service and product branches, or do you have a plan there?
We definitely have, the interview as a service is our, flagship product. So, that will continue to dominate on that. And at the same time, this would be more of an evolution where first round would be more AI based and the second round would be more, freelancer based.
Has there been any pushback from candidates talking to an AI interview?
So
Is there a way to track data on candidates taking the interview or not?
yeah, so frankly speaking, in the US right now, it is, it's not candidates market as of now, right? So there is not a lot of pushback by candidates that I want to talk to a person, I don't want to talk to AI. So that we haven't seen. But interestingly, people are more prone to try cheating methods when it is with AI because, there's not any other person watching you. So they feel it more kind of, they feel that, okay, it's okay to cheat right now because it's an AI talking to me.
Try to game the system.
True.
That is interesting. And the AI obviously has methods to catch that.
Yeah. We have put a lot of, proctoring solutions like screen, we record the whole screen and all sort of things. Restrictions on changing the tab and browser goes into full screen mode and so on and so forth. So
Incredible.
yeah. I mean, but that's like, always virus and antivirus kind of a situation. So they will always find some better way to cheat. And then, we have to kind of mitigate that and so on and so forth.
They worked half as hard to just do the interview as they would to cheat. They might actually get the job.
The latest in that is, a complete using a gaming laptop and, have a complete, so let's say I'm actually giving the interview, but the face is replaced by your face. So that's the latest we have seen.
Anyone just plug in an AI and then you have AI interviewing AI.
Yes, that's also feasible. I'm sure very soon we'll reach there.
Well, that's too much. Yeah, you could plug in all your info of what you've you've done and what you're capable of, and maybe make it a little more impressive. And then the AI could just answer questions, but know when to stop. Like you can't be a PhD, but you got to be senior.
True. Too much of a perfection is one way to catch AI.
Yeah.
If you ask,
So
tell me all the US presidents, and it will probably start alphabetically.
yeah, you could do a little an AI test in the beginning to make sure you're not talking about an AI. That's too funny. So company building, talk a little bit about that. You've been part of 2 acquisitions, sounds like. Now you're working with FloCareer and trying to build this into something more than it is today, I imagine. What is your end goal? Do you have an end goal? Do you just love doing what you're doing? What kind of gets you going each day?
No, that's a good question. I mean, very honestly, when I started it, I was quite naive. I really wanted to be my own boss and get started and make a difference. Right? That's how I started, and then I learned a lot. Throughout the process. The whole the process of starting with a very less amount of resources to kind of keep going, finding the right opportunity. Then we hit by COVID, and initially there was a lot of fear, right? So we had to reduce for our entire small team. We had to reduce our, their salaries by 50% for 2-3 months. But then things bounced back really well. So you learn you learn a lot. You know how to keep a cool no matter what is the situation. Things are looking pretty good at this point of time in terms of our growth, our volume, and so on and so forth. So making a big impact when it comes to AI interviewing, that's definitely our medium term, short term goal. And then we'll see where the journey takes us.
Okay. What do you predict? What do you think the future looks like for AI interviewing or your company? Any predictions as AI improves?
So, last couple of months, in fact, we have seen a phenomenal growth. And good part is that in the US geography also. US geography was showing a lot of weakness when it came to the tech hiring, because you always hear, Facebook is laying off people, Microsoft is laying off people, and so on and so forth. Fortunately, it has picked up quite well. So, the remaining 6 months of this year, we are predicting a very strong, numbers, which is a good sign. In fact, this month we would be one of the highest interviews ever done, in the US geography. So that's a good trend. And as far as, interviewing is concerned, as I mentioned, right, the first screening, we definitely see more and more folks moving towards AI is what we are predicting. We are also seeing in a lot of other domains, which was actually off reach to us. Now we are able to do that because, let's say, for example, nursing and healthcare and health, hospital. Finding freelancers to do nursing interviews was very tough, but thanks to AI now we can do that and help hospitals too, which are very busy, right? So they can take the first round using AI, and you name it, and you kind of like any domain we can do the interviews now, right, using AI. So we definitely see a very strong kind of a growth path, because that limitation that we had, that okay, we are really good at tech, we have 8,000 freelancers in tech, but tomorrow you come and say do something for rocket science and say, okay, we have to find good experts in space tech, right? So that limitation is gone. So that is a very good news for us. Where did it go from here? At a macro level, it's anybody's guess, right? Of course, I have an optimistic bias because I am a startup founder, but it is going to be disruptive. AI is definitely going to be disruptive, but it will also open up a lot of new.
Yeah, certainly. So you're not trying to concentrate in certain domains. You're very open to jumping into any domain.
Absolutely, we don't want to spread too thin, like opening door for all possible things. But if there are opportunities, if there are help needed in any specific domain, we are very keen on kind of experimenting new domains for sure.
Have you ever shut down a domain?
We started mock interviews, and it didn't work out so well for us because we had collaboration with certain job portals, where people can upload their resumes, and then we kind of do the mock interviews for them. We started that, but then we were getting like all sort of interviews and just one interview, right? So you have to onboard somebody just for one interview. So we stopped that mock interviews for anything and everything because that was not scaling up well.
That's like a B2C offering.
Yes, and we were kind of B2B2C because it was the job portal which was like advertising on their site that, hey, thanks for submitting your resume. Would you like to get a mock interview done.
Very cool. I mean, you could keep that branch and just not as a profit venture, but like to help veterans do a mock interview and something like that. Like I volunteer with an organization called Hire Heroes USA, and that's what I do as a volunteer. I'll conduct mock interviews, but it's not profitable. I do it for nothing. But that could be an AI at least application where it doesn't cost you much money or any money, but you can provide value to people that deserve it.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's a good point. But now with the AI interviewers, we can probably get back to that.
Yeah, super cool. Well, the podcast is called Peaking. It's to describe reaching a pinnacle in your career or personal life. With that in mind, how do you feel like you're peaking? What are moments in your life or career where you've really felt that you're on top of the world?
Absolutely. When you get, the funding, right? That's suddenly you have a lot of resources available to you. You can do a lot more things that, was not possible before. So that was one of those moments. Otherwise, at a micro level, right? I mean, when an interviewer comes and says us that, hey, we are so grateful to FloCareer because it helped us in so and so ways. We have one interviewer who went through a really bad health situation around COVID time. And, at that time we were doing a lot of interviews because, things were like really crazy just after the second wave of the COVID. And this particular person, a very bright interviewer, right? And he really loves FloCareer because he made, FloCareer was the only way for him to survive during those critical months where he was not able to do full-time job, but this helped him to, pay the bills. So those are the times when we really feel good about it, right? Like at a micro level. So it's kind of a micro peaks, I would say.
Awesome. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, that's part of it. You don't ever want to feel like you reached the very top because then you can only look down. I think it's human nature to always, be looking up.
Yeah.
Everyone's climbed Everest nowadays and people are looking higher. It's like, I want to be an astronaut.
Why not?
Anything else you think is worth covering? Anything else you wanted to talk about?
No, I guess, it would be interesting to see, what is the next set of avenues, the next set of job creations we will get with AI. And I'm quite bullish about, especially the space tech. Because, now, with SpaceX and more, right, a lot of things are booming in that area. I can't wait to see a future where, we are having asteroid minings and whatnot, kind of getting to the next level of abundance. So, yeah.
I'm very much a techno optimist as well. I think there's been so many seismic shifts in the workforce since we were all farmers, or even hunter gatherers, then we all became farmers, and then we all, we started to have cities and all these new jobs pop up. And so, when the car comes out, most of the people that ran stables probably didn't do as well, but now you have all these new industries that can come up from that. So
True.
I think it's impossible to predict. I think people try to act like they know what is going to happen, but it's just impossible. When before the car, you would never have imagined that, building all these roads or mechanics or all these tire manufacturers, there's so many different things that came from that. And so it's going to be the same with AI. I think
Pretty sure.
that's the only prediction you can make, is that more things will come of it.
Absolutely.
New technology almost never, I don't know if ever has reduced the amount of opportunity. It has always increased opportunity.
True. Absolutely. Yeah. You have to keep, thinking big and, kind of get to the next level. That's the sky is literally the limit. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, how can people find out more about FloCareer? Are you hiring interviewers? Are you hiring engineers? What does that look like for you?
Sure. FloCareer.com, FLOCAREER, right? FloCareer.com is our website. We are very, we have a strong presence on LinkedIn also. But yeah, you reach out to us. There are ways to reach out once you land on our homepage. And we'll be happy to help you guys.
Awesome. And I've been curious the whole time, what are these trophies and awards behind you?
So this side is mostly work related, and this is more personal. Some of them are marathons and things like that. And this is more of innovations that we made as part of our, data center products, in my second startup, which became, part of Cisco later. And that's the NASDAQ, my first startup when it, went public.
That's incredible. Awesome. Well, congrats on your progression and career, and I definitely am looking forward to following FloCareer and seeing what you guys do next. I think it's obvious where this is going to go, and you just need people to tackle the problems, and you're one of those in the arena. So happy to have you here on Peaking, and if you announce any further product offerings or you hit other milestones, we'd love to have you back on, Mehul.
Thanks a lot, Wyatt. It was really, really interesting to talk with you and love your energy.
I love that. Thank you, sir. Talk soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.